Call the city council meeting back into session. Sorry for that, folks. We had a little minor technical difficulty here. So beginning tonight, we'll start out with a quarterly update from Mayor Cahill, and then we'll have some speakers and some public hearings and go from there. I'd like to recognize Mayor Cahill's in the room with us, Mr. Brian Ailes, our city budget director, Lisa Chandler from engineering, and also Stephanie Williams, our city solicitor. Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's good to see everybody. So between city engineer Lisa Chandler and me, we'll try to walk you through some updates, and Mr. Ailes is here to add some context and answer questions as need be. Okay, Youth Center. The Youth Center project, which, as you remember, we're building with ARPA funds and a federal earmark. Ground was broken in November, and the goal is that it's about a 12-month construction period. So at this point, they're still working on the foundations. There's a lot of work to do in terms of going down to the bedrock, right, with supports for the foundation, and so that work's ongoing. And you won't see it until you start seeing the building come up, right? But I mean, if you go by there now, you do see they're on site every day, and they're working on the foundation. Move on. City Hall. So we have concluded schematic design. If you remember, we came to you last fall and said we wanted to move through schematic design before coming forward to ask for the complete project budget to be approved. And if you remember, that's how we handled the middle school and police station projects, was to go through schematic design. So if you look at timeline, schematic design finished off at the end of January, and we're in the process now of waiting for our project manager, the architect, and construction, now I'm confusing myself, and construction manager to reconcile the updated cost estimates that have come in. And this is the part of every project, right? You have a certain handle on cost, then you get to a certain part of the design, you bring the construction team on, it gets more refined. So we don't have any reason to believe that there's any significant or really any increase. We will be before you as soon as we're able to. I would say sometime in the next 2 to 3 council meetings, our goal is to be in front of you with the request for the project budget. As you can see at the bottom, the project budget has been, it's been on the table for the last several years as we've looked at it at the same number. About a $26.5 million total for construction costs, soft costs, which are the project management, the architectural, and the construction management, as well as the cost for temporary office space for city offices while the construction is going on. So that's been at that 26.5 number all along. You remember we've talked about making the project fit that budget. And so the goal right now is to be before you in the next, as I said, few meetings with a hope that you will be able to work through the process and take your vote and hopefully support the project so that we can begin the construction document work this summer, leading to, it's hard to tell exactly when we would need to be out of the building, but because that clock only starts ticking when we've reached a point where we're all in agreement that the project moves forward and that you approve of the budget. So right now, I would say everything is on target, and our goal to get in front of you soon is where we at? We're at the second February meeting already, so we could be talking April. I think that'd be, realistic to be in front of you folks in April. Fire station project. What's new from the last time we spoke about it? We can tell you that, so the envelope and the electrical mechanical HVAC are the two different components to the project. You can see construction is really on the envelope work, just waiting for the weather to be with us on the roof. You can see construction began in the fall, but the roofing is got to wait for the spring weather. Looking for late summer substantial completion on the windows and roof work. And then on the other side, the HVAC work, which we've talked about, the bid will be advertised this week, advertised this week to land in the central register of the state list next Wednesday, with a goal of beginning the project in April, and it'd be about a 3-month project to do the HVAC work at the fire station. So really teed up to hopefully by late summer have all of this envelope and HVAC work completed. Next. Central Library. So we have been working for really the past year with our project team to try to determine how best to move forward and improve the dynamic of the library for the staff and for library patrons, and how to do so with the available funds. So this is a quick rundown of what we approved about 2 weeks ago, and so our project team is in the process of ordering the necessary equipment. In terms of when they can start, that'll depend on lead time for the equipment that has been put on order. But just quick rundown. What we will be doing is spending just about $2.25 million. That money is a combination of existing appropriation, the 3 earmarks, the federal and 2 state earmarks, and some incentives from National Grid. And so here are the things we plan to do. There are 2 rooftop units. There are 2 condensing units, which are affiliated with the rooftop units. Each condensing unit has 2 compressors. So we'll be buying 4 new compressors for those condensing units. And then there'll be some coil replacement in the rooftop units. The 2 condensing units consist of heat exchanging in the compressors. These will be fully replaced and brand new. There are also smaller air handling, so those 2 rooftop units and the associated condensing units and compressors handle the bulk of the square footage inside the building for moving air and heating. However, there are 4 smaller condensing units on the roof that handle 4 specific rooms in the building, so those will also be replaced, as will the air handlers associated with those rooms and those condensing units, and those air handlers are actually within the building. This piece, the 4 separate rooms and the smaller systems, will allow us to eliminate the use of Freon, and you've heard Commissioner Collins talk about that on several occasions. Freon is now no longer allowed. It's a banned refrigerant as a bad greenhouse gas. So that will allow us to leave that in the past. The other piece to the work will be some targeted insulation in the Winter Street side of the building, and that'll be beneath the roof line. And so the goal there is to minimize any ice damming concerns. We talked about that at the Winter Street entrance. And so there is enough money to insulate really just that segment of the building. And what it'll do is it'll allow, and as I said, in that area, it'll minimize the ice dam concerns. It'll also allow to really close up better close up the envelope so that there won't be the same kind of air coming in and air going out that there is through other areas in the roof line. We will do as much as we can on the insulation front. We're going to track very carefully just what things are costing as we go so that we stay within the resources we have, and we'll do as much insulating as we're able to. Commissioner Collins characterized this as insulating about 10% of the needed total insulation. When I say insulation, when you talk about the building envelope and trying to make sure that it's tight, right, so that we don't have that infiltration of outdoor air and seeping out of indoor air that just impacts the ability of the heating and cooling functions. But so that's what we'll do on that project, and it should get us to a better place, and that's really the goal behind it. We looked at what was available, worked very hard with the team to ensure that we're investing wisely that $2.25 million so that we get some years out of the system. some additional years. This is one that we have started talking about as it has been flagged for us over the past months by Commissioner Collins. At the DPS campus at the yard, there are 3 pumps and 2 storage tanks. So more of our vehicles use gas, some use diesel, and one of the gas storage tanks, they're all above ground tanks, had to be drained because it has a leak. The other gas tank and diesel tank are both at end of life, and there have been challenges with the pumps as well. So we need a full replacement of that. And as pointed out here, all city vehicles, but for the EVs, are fueled there. So we have a request out for bids. Next week they'll be open. That'll give us really an exact cost. And the goal is to come forward to you folks in the next few meetings with a number of free cash requests, this being one. We won't be able to sign a contract without the money being appropriated, and there will be a lead time on delivery of materials. So we will be trying to get with you folks in the next couple meetings on this, hopefully to take care of this and some other free cash asks as we look at our current certified free cash and looking ahead to appropriate use of that this year and how to carry forward free cash as cash reserves in the future. Last point there, as you can see from the notes, that when we're in the process of replacing, we'll need to find alternatives for where to fuel our fleet, and that's something that Commissioner Collins is undertaking now. Water meter replacement. So we've talked about this at various points. We are at the point now where we have gone out for an invitation for bids in IFB. That's the second to last bullet. We can run through the bullets if it's helpful. You've heard all this before, but for the public's benefit, multifaceted citywide meter replacement project. We know that the meters that we have in place now are at end of life. I think each of you have constituents whose meters have failed and now are on estimated, or taking their own readings. But, it's a tough spot to be in. And this is a significant project, so getting it done right has been the priority. We are going to, with this new product, people have the ability to subscribe to a user portal. So, when these water meters are in, everybody's going to have a much better opportunity to track their own use. And they can, if they use the portal, they can get alarms or, flags on their own email accounts to say, hey, go look, you got something going on. We've had too many times where people's meters, even when the meters are working, they get a reading and that reading tells them that they had something going on at home. They had a leak going on or this or that, and so they get bills that are surprisingly high. This will be, much better technology than was available when the current ones were installed in the 2000s, some years ago. So, this is a real great improvement. It will have a significant price tag, anticipated of $8 million. It's something that will be paid using the enterprise funds. So the goal is to come forward to you with this once the IFB process is complete and we're ready to move forward. Again, we're going to need the approval from the council before we can start the process. The goal will be to come forward to you with a more detailed presentation on the water replacement, how it will roll out. At the same time, we'll present some other things that we have been working to line up and prioritize in terms of additional water and sewer infrastructure improvements. We know that just as we painted the inside and outside of the Brimble Hills Drive up at the top, that's our main water tower. We had to do that a handful of years ago. We also need to do that with the Folly Hill Water Tower. So that'll be a project. We know that we have a couple of significant sections of sewer main that are going to need replacements. So we'll come forward to you with the proposal on this as well as a forecast out of what additional water and sewer infrastructure improvements will be needed so that we can plan for the needed timed up increases in water and sewer rates to handle that infrastructure investment. That's something we hope to be back to you in the next month or so with that proposal. And I'm going to turn it over in a minute to Mrs. Chandler, but I first want to say in kind of previewing the Three Bridges update, you know that by Three Bridges, we talk about the temporary Hall Whitaker Bridge over the Bass River between Ryle Side and the back side of the depot area. And then when the temporary bridge is in place, the tear down of the existing Hall Whitaker Bridge and the tear down of the existing Kernwood Bridge to allow for the permanent replacement bridge construction projects on each of those. The other thing I want to mention is, Ms. Chandler will touch on this, separate from the progress on the temporary Hall Whitaker and then the two permanent replacements, we know that Mass Department of Transportation has been working on some temporary repairs on the Kernwood Bridge. You've heard me say this, but before the state determined that the Hall Whitaker was unsafe to keep open, they were hoping to replace the Kernwood first. The Kernwood is older. The Kernwood opens to boat traffic about 4,000 times a year. And they are now in the process of spending about $15 million to keep that bridge, the Kernwood, operational for the next 2.5 years until the temporary Hall Whitaker is open. So that's MassDOT's kind of that's their responsibility right now, is to make sure the Kernwood keeps operational. As a result, one of the things that they've got to do is have a several-week closure of the Kernwood this summer for some work. But again, Ms. Chandler will go through that with you now. Thanks.
Thank you, and I'm going to present from here so I can move my own slides. So as Mayor mentioned, you might have already seen or been impacted by the temporary repairs to the Kernwood. There's actually a closure overnight tonight. The bridge will be left in the open state so that they could perform some work to the structure. The repairs that they're currently doing are expected to last through the summer into the fall. They're hoping for September. A lot of it depends on lead time of the materials, the decking material, everything that they're performing there. Additionally, some repairs are being done on the now closed Hall Whitaker for the sidewalks. If you travel over that, you might have noticed that there was some heaving in the sidewalks that was not there when they originally closed the bridge. So they've actually completed, as of today, I believe, the north side. And then next week, they're switching over to the south side. They expect it to last a few more weeks. They have been maintaining pedestrian access on the open side of the bridge, so pedestrian access has never actually faltered. And there's been some early utility work that's been occurring out in the area of the Hall Whitaker so that the temporary bridge construction can kind of progress faster. So National Grid and Verizon have been out there. National Grid Gas will be out there shortly. There's some cabling that's being done. You might have noticed that there are new utility poles up. All of this is kind of being done in conjunction with the Bridge Street Rehabilitation Project. But in terms of the bridges, you can kind of see that little cross section there. That's a rendering of what the temporary Hall Whitaker is expected to look like. The temporary bridge will have a bike lane in each direction, as well as a 5-foot sidewalk off the south side of the bridge so that the pedestrians are as far away from the construction as possible while they're doing construction for the permanent. The bids go out this Saturday. They expect it to be about a 60-day bid opening. That's kind of typical for DOTs, so that's what they're currently expecting. They hope to have a contractor under contract in April, with construction to begin late summer, early fall. That sounds like a long time, but in DOT time, that's like as fast as humanly possible. So they are hoping that bridge construction starts late summer with an anticipated opening of fall of 2027. So a lot of the updates, they've revolved around environmental permitting that's necessary. This is the fastest schedule that they think they can accomplish due to lead times of all the materials and the permitting associated. Which leads us to Bridge Street. Bridge Street started last March, just about a year from now. Newport Construction has been performing that work. They moved much faster than anticipated and actually did almost 18 months of work in about 9 months. They've completed all of the underground utility work to date. They did all of the drainage improvements. They got foundations in for some of the lighting structures. They did the initial 2 courses of pavement. City Water Department replaced the water main for a good portion of the roadway. National Grid Gas came out and did a lot of gas replacement. So there's been quite a bit of work that's been performed in a short amount of time. We have an updated meeting this week, but we anticipate that the contractor will be back in about a month to finish out their contract with sidewalks, curbing, installing the traffic signals, and then doing final paving. All of this work you see listed here is for all of the work on the neighborhood side of the bridge. It is to be determined what will happen on the far side of the bridge due to the bridge construction, but they are both DOT projects. We are working closely with them to coordinate all of the various moving pieces. And everyone's favorite topic, paving. So this year's paving is actually kind of broken out into two separate things. National Grid Electric is very close to being done with the 115 kV route, which allows us to come in and rehabilitate the entire route. So come April, when weather breaks, we will be looking to start repaving the roads associated with the 115 kV project. This also includes some targeted sidewalk repairs. We'll be replacing handicap ramps so that everything is ADA accessible. It also involves a water main on East Lothrop between Hale and Corning being replaced by the water department. It really needs replacement before we go and repave the street. We want to make sure that all of that infrastructure is updated. So sections of the route will be able to be paved right away because there's limited work that needs to be done regarding sidewalks or any other work. Some roads will lag behind, but all of the route and some of the associated roadways will be paved. In addition to that, we have our normal paving program. This year, 17 streets will be paved across all 6 wards. We will begin hopefully in late March with our sidewalk contractors. We are starting this year with 3, maybe 4 sidewalk crews, and we have 2 paving crews. So we are going to hit the ground running. As always, all of the streets being paved are listed on the city's website with the street paving list, as well as weekly, if not daily, updates. As soon as we have a date of when known activities are taking place, it gets updated on the website. It's a great place to follow along. We try to be as proactive as possible and flyer, but that really is your best source of information if you ever need to know what's going on at any given point in time. Some of those 17 streets include a couple of streets that we were not able to finish before the end of last season. So Upper Hale Street, that got water main replacement, will be done this year. Half of the Thaxton neighborhood was not able to be finished. That'll be done. Putnam and Cabot Street. So there's a lot of work going on. There will be a lot of road work going on. Hopefully as much as possible can be done early in the season so that it's not all cramming in at the end of the year, but we have a good plan moving forward and we have a number of crews available at our disposal to get it all done. And that is it for me.
Before we get to questions, I would just like to halt us here, open a public hearing, and then recess it, and we'll come right back to this. So I'd like to open the public hearing for order number 59. Ms. Kent, can you read that?
Order number 59, City of Beverly ordered that the City Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Tuesday, February 18, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. at 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, Council Chambers, relative to National Grid Petition 304-73249 to install 85 feet of new duct bank extending from National Grid property to existing MH1 on River Street and to install a 15-foot of new duct bank extending from National Grid property to existing MH2 on River Street. And this was in the paper on February 10th.
Councilors, I make a motion to recess this till 7:50. All in favor? Aye. We'll recess, close this and recess this till 7:50. Mr. Mayor?
Thanks, Mr. President. Just a couple other pieces to feed in there. We committed to doing some sidewalk work last year. We were able to do a chunk of Boyle Street and Henderson Road and Lakeshore Ave. And the plan this year is to put a sidewalk the length of Cross Lane, hopefully the full length. We're working on a couple of tougher spots along there. And then to put a sidewalk along Sawyer Road from the Dodge Street end.
Tozer.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yep.
Thanks, Lisa, sorry. Tozer from the Dodge Street end up to close to the train tracks. To get permitted to go across the tracks is going to be a longer process with the MBTA, but we can get those done, I believe. A couple of timing pieces on paving. I know the Hale Street piece in Beverly Farms, which has taken time because of the gas work and the water main work. The goal, Councilor St. Hilaire, is to get out there early in the spring, as soon as the weather allows, and put the base paving down. That will improve vastly the driving surface. Then we'll get the sidewalk work, and when that's done later in the year, we'll do the final paving. Councilor Feldman, we still need to do Putnam. We're also this year going to pave, help me out, we're going to do a piece of Laurel, and we're going to do Walnut, and Albany this year or next?
This year.
So that neighborhood is all near to the school, and the goal will be to get it all done during the summer. Councilor Hausman, we're looking to get a piece of the 115 KV done right away this spring. That would be the section from Corning by the flower shop down to Cross Lane, because we're ready there. Other pieces need more time before they can be done. We're also hoping to get Ray and Bowden done early. Ray needs some gas work, so we've talked with National Grid about getting that gas work done as early in the season as possible. So those are some of those. Mr. President, this year in Ward 3 is, help me out, Lisa, I don't want to get it wrong, Lexington, Medford, and Concord?
Yep.
And so those, we're going to get to those. And Sonning is the next of the roads that's not fully accepted as a public way, that is on tap for next year. So we're going to start that process like we did over on Old Planters and Cumnock and Thaxton about getting homeowners to, kind of sign off on those easements to the city so we can actually do the repaving. So that's going to be a process. That process involves a good amount of work by engineering and the solicitor's office, as well as some by planning. So that's an ongoing effort, trying to get a couple streets done at a time. Councilor Spang, we've got a lot of 115 KV, and we've got the other part of Weber, and then more to do next year. I'll come back in a second. Councilor Rotundo.
I got bridges.
You have state-owned bridges that we're trying hard together to get rebuilt. We also, this year in Ryleside, it's Sylvester and Bates Park, which are due, and so we're excited about getting to those. In Ward 2, the other piece I want to bring up, this is new for most of you. Councilor Spang and I have been talking with the folks at MassDOT and getting them to come take a closer look at the School Street Bridge, which is a MassDOT-owned bridge over the train tracks. You think about crossing Rantoul and heading into Goat Hill. And so MassDOT is doing an evaluation of that bridge with an understanding they're going to need to do some repair work on it this year. We have told them several times, and we've also spoken with the folks at National Grid to make sure they all understand that we need for them to work with us to coordinate that work. There's significant work that needs to be done along Water Street, along River Street and McPherson to take the old electric transmission line out once the new one is fully energized and operational. And some of that work runs by the end of Bridge Street, and we know the temporary bridge construction needs to start this summer. And so we've got to get National Grid in and out of the street as quickly as we can for their work, in Water and McPherson. And so we need to time that up as best we can with the company at National Grid, with the state agency at MassDOT, so that we're able to ensure that the residents of Goat Hill particularly, and also anybody who uses that corridor to get around town, are able to do so without any unneeded inconvenience. Nothing about it's easy, but we're trying to do our best to coordinate these state agencies and private company and grid. National Grid also is going to need to work with the MBTA on when they remove the old electric line, which comes out of their substation. Well, first off, it goes up Wellman Street, bottom of Congress, Wellman, over to Weber into the substation. So we know that our neighbors on Goat Hill still have some work to get through, and we have to work on minimizing that upset. When they come out of their substation on River Street, National Grid's 55-year-old line, which you all know well at this point, when they do take it out, it runs down Water, down McPherson, then it gets up into the rail bed, and it follows the rail bed over how many rail crossings? Over Rantoul Street, the Gloucester Crossing intersection right there, one of the biggest one in town, and then 2 grade crossings at Montserrat, both Spring and Essex, and then the grade crossing where Cole Street and Foster and Boyles come together. So 5 grade crossings, they've got to go under the tracks with taking that line out. So they're going to have to coordinate closely with the MBTA, and we're going to be in those conversations to try to make sure that that work itself isn't upsetting or minimizes upset. Most of that work around in the rail bed and at the crossings, I believe, is going to need to happen in the overnight hours when the train's not running. So we'll keep you posted and keep neighbors posted as much as we possibly can as that gets sorted through. I'll stop there. There's plenty. I'm sure you folks have questions.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the presentation and everything. I'll open it up for questions for everybody. Councilor Feldman.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate update on a lot of stuff, and I have several questions, but I think some of them are quick. As for the City Hall project, where did the city land in that process of where the temporary offices, what's going to be going on during?
So ultimately, until you folks approve a project budget that empowers it to move forward, we really can't go out looking for space. Now, that doesn't mean we haven't looked, but it has to be done pursuant to, procurement law. So we've tried to look around to see what might be available, and it's really too soon to know. Some of it will be timing. Again, we hope to have this in front of you, as I said, by April, which could allow us, right upon approval, we'll go out more aggressively and formally. We want to stay in the downtown. We don't know if that's possible, but in the downtown is a priority. If not, in order to get the necessary square footage to accommodate our teams, our staff, the public, we may find ourselves a little further away from downtown, but it remains to be seen.
Okay, thank you. And then for the library project, I was wondering when we had the HVAC project vote in the spring, there were a lot of, I think, 88, the compliance issues and other items that were part of the beyond the roof and the HVAC systems. And I was wondering if any of those were slated to be tackled as part of the project update, or if that wasn't necessary.
I think one of the, because of the limited funds to work with and just trying to take care of those real, most kind of top of line concerns around safety at the Winter Street entrance, and trying to ensure that the system will operate in the coldest of weather and the hottest of weather. Tried to focus there, and I think we're under the threshold for triggering the significant ADA effort.
Okay. And I have one more quick question, I think. I was really happy to have a water meter replacement update. I just got off the phone with a constituent on the way over here with calling in her meter reading and just how cumbersome sounds like the whole system and the process has gotten very cumbersome and outdated for both the city and constituents. So I'm really excited about that. I was wondering if we had a timeline of when, I know it's going out for bid, but when the timeline of that would start and how long it would take. And
Yeah.
then, okay. Cool.
Yeah, Lisa, you want to take that?
Sure. So we're hoping, so we should be getting final numbers next week of what that is looking like for installation. We'll package everything up for your presentation, but we are hoping to begin the installation projects as soon as April if everything aligns. We're looking at it about 18-month installation process. That's pretty aggressive. That also relies heavily on homeowners allowing access because everyone needs to have their home entered. So the more everyone can work with us, the faster it'll go. But we're targeting an 18-month process from beginning to end.
Okay.
And that's every meter in the city. It's about 14,000 properties.
Actually, really, good timeline. And then one quick follow-up question on that, or is the water, I know that is an enterprise funds project. When it comes to the painting of the water tower, are those and things like that, is that also considered part of the enterprise? Is that
And
funded?
that's why I mentioned those other ones that we know are upcoming, because they all will be funded through rates. Yeah, they'll all be funded through the water and sewer rates.
Got it, okay. All right, I think that's good for now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Council Sweeney?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mayor, for the presentation. I have a handful of questions about the capital plan, so I'll put those aside and just focus on the ongoing projects. In particular, I have a few questions about the ongoing work at Central Fire Station. In the capital plan, it's mentioned that there was a goal of adding rooftop HVAC equipment that is not sustainable without significant structural upgrades. I know you mentioned that in the presentation that there is still a plan to do some amount of HVAC work. Could you elaborate on what the difference is between the work that we're undergoing and the work that we would have otherwise liked to have tackled, it sounds like, in this package of upgrades that we might not be able to due to these structural concerns?
Could you pull that slide back up, Lisa? Do you have anything on that?
Structural and electrical for some upgrades that place for the larger scope.
Yeah. So, well, why don't you come on up, Mr. Ailes? I think for some of your question, we might be better served with Commissioner Collins being here, and he
Okay.
wasn't able to be here tonight. We can bring it back up at a
Yeah.
future meeting for sure. But I think Mr. Ailes' point that he just made from his seat makes sense to share at the microphone.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. Just recalling some of the conversations we've had with Commissioner Collins about this, there were a couple of concerns, not only the structural concerns of the building, but also the electrical load that's required for, your larger HVAC systems. So I believe this phase just provides some additional air control ability, heating and cooling, but a much larger scale project would involve upgrading the electrical, upgrading the structure and all that, and that's not within this original authorization.
Okay, so thank you for that, Mr. Ailes, and to follow up on that point, I know the current authorization between the initial authorization 2 years ago and the amount authorized this past summer is $2.75 million. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And there was mention in the capital plan, and I'm not sure if it's part of this work, a plan to install electric vehicle supply equipment, and that would require an electrical service upgrade to make sure that the building had the capacity required. Is that part of this work, or is that, like the HVAC, something else?
That will likely be the second phase.
Okay, perfect.
Before we go any further, I just need to halt this and open the 7:45, and then I'll recess it, okay? Open this 7:45 public hearing, order number 60, Ms. Kent.
Order number 60, City of Beverly, order that the City Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 at 7:45 p.m. at 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, Council Chambers, relative to National Grid Petition 309-26878 to install 75 feet of new duct bank extending from National Grid property to existing MH1A on River Street. And this was in the paper on February 10th.
Councilors, I recommend we recess this public hearing until 8 o'clock. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 8 to 0. And, sir, you can,
Yeah, I guess I would just kind of remind me and all of us that everything in the capital plan, to the extent it has a dollar amount with it, and these are all projected costs, projected at the time that it's submitted. It's always a living kind of, draft type of plan, because when you see something in the capital plan, if we don't have it scheduled to build yet, or to improve or replace yet, then the number that you're seeing isn't necessarily going to be the number. And whatever that number is, those numbers don't get refined without spending money to refine them, right? You have to design, you have to bring in construction management, who then, can update those. I mean, right now, you don't have schematic design on things that are in that plan. Where it's schematic design on City Hall, the next thing after that is design documents. We've got construction management on board. None of that was possible 5-6 years ago when you looked at it on the plan. So it is, it's always a document that we have to work with and understand that those things will ebb and flow and change, as will prioritization of different projects.
So thank you for that, Mayor. That point is well taken. The one question I have to kind of tie this line of questioning about this particular project together is it sounds like, let me know if I misunderstood your responses. The larger HVAC work on the fire station and the electrical service upgrades would need to be part of a second phase of work at the fire station outside of this 2.7 million. And I know referenced in the plan is the need for some interior work, that there was no cost figure given. It was TBD. It was mentioned that it would be potentially funded in free cash, which makes me think the magnitude isn't as large as something like City Hall, where we'd have to borrow. So with that in mind, is there a plan to either tackle the HVAC and electrical supply upgrades and/or the interior design work as part of kind of the rolling project that's going on currently at the fire station, or is that entirely on the back burner at this point in time, and the plan is do the exterior work, the windows, and the more limited HVAC upgrades that were mentioned, and then move on, essentially?
So, Mr. President, I think the question as to whether there will be a phase two to that work is, I think, an open question.
Okay.
The interior carpentry work that's needed, there's definitely some work that's needed on that point, for the comfort and functionality for the firefighters. And so, we'll get a better handle on that. Some of that may be doable by our own DPS teams. Is that about all need to be said on that, Mr. Ailes, or?
Yeah, if I could
Yeah,
just
sure.
add, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I would just add, we're still going out for bid for some of the construction costs related to this first phase. So it's still yet to be determined how much that initial authorization is really going to get us. But we absolutely will know more once we get those bid documents in, and then we'll have a much better idea of whether it makes sense to bridge the gap to an additional phase or additional component and kind of peck away at this over time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ailes. That's it from me, Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you. Council St. Hilaire, I know you had yours hand up.
I just had a comment, a quick question. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the update. Ms. Chandler as well, very interested in the paving update in particular, as you probably can appreciate. And I want to say thank you for, sticking to the commitment on Hale Street, Thaxton Heights, and Common Lane as well, and Thistle. Related to the sidewalks, I'm getting a lot of questions about some of those meetings we had when we talked about all the different sidewalks. Just to clarify, so Lakeshore Boyles were completed, Cross Lane will be done, it sounds like as part of the transmission line project, or not, or? Not, okay. In addition, we had talked about Stanley Street, Foster Street, and Common Lane. Would that be included as part of the paving, or is that separate?
So, Mr. President, and thanks, Councilor, for the question. Right now, we're not going to try to get a sidewalk on Common Lane done with the Common Lane paving, because I don't want to give up on it.
Yeah.
It's a challenging, layout and a challenging possibility, and it may be more of an off-road path than a paved area, but I'm not sure. We do know that we brought VHB on as consultants last fall, and you folks remember this conversation too, to ask them to take a closer look at Boyles from Tall Tree down to where it meets Cross and turns the corner out to the tracks. Taking a closer look at that, and a closer look, help me, Lisa, on not Common, say it again?
Truck exclusion, heavy trucks.
Oh, right, yeah. So it was to take a closer look at whether we can get additional sidewalk on Boyles from Tall Tree to the railroad tracks, and as well to move forward the case for and the request that we want to present to the state for a truck exclusion on Boyle Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Stanley, Foster, any update there, or?
Again, don't want to give up on them, but the money that we made available collectively last year on sidewalks will get us, hopefully, through Cross Lane.
I'm just trying to clarify what's on the plan and what's not. It's like,
but those, let's keep talking about them, because we all
give
know.
up on them, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that, residents will be safer for having sidewalks. So wherever we can, we want to make sure we do.
And lastly, I was just happy to see Hull Street on the anticipated list for 2026. I was going to email you about that this morning as I was driving on it, so happy to see that listed as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilors, before we do more questions, I need to reopen the first public hearing, and I recommend I'll make a motion that we recess that till 8:20. All in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Let's see, Counselor Bowen, and then Counselor Spang, and then we'll go to Counselor Houseman.
Great, thank you. Really appreciate the updates. There were a few things that stood out to me that I might just flag that we'll follow up on sort of separately or in a meeting on the capital expenditure plan, which I hope may be something we take up as a sort of standalone meeting in finance and property or elsewhere. So on City Hall, just hearing that the final design process may start this summer or so, sounds like that's a multi-month process itself typically. So looking at sort of being in this space as it is at least through the end of this calendar year before, and maybe beyond if design takes it. But just wanted to clarify, I know it's a very open estimate, but is that fair to say probably not looking at movement before then?
I would say if there is an approval of a total project budget, then we'll ask the team to get going the next day. Well, 72 hours later. However, and so I don't know how long it will take. It won't take a month, but it might not take 9. I know that they're motivated to move. So whether it means that it won't be until next calendar year that we need an alternative space to work in, or sometime sooner, that, we'll see. Hopefully we'll have the chance to see, right?
Sounds good. So if I may, the other things I'll be kind of watching for or thinking about, I think the public services, buildings, facilities overall have been a priority. Hearing that there's a new $650,000 project that's urgent, we'll need to address in some way, and makes me wonder about what other pieces of that infrastructure that are currently programmed for 2033 or so might need to be moved up. So that's a future conversation. Also, given the state of the public services budget, having 150,000 or so potentially moved from equipment or operations there into the McPherson Youth Center project, we'll just want to watch and think about what that impact is, if that's this fiscal year or next. But I think my one question that I think is more timely for tonight is with our overall plan and timeline for the former Family Dollar building. Since it will not be used this year for City Hall as we initially anticipated, the other uses for which we justified that purchase were preserving the parking and moving towards a mixed-use building that increased housing supply in ways that we needed and kept that area vibrant. I think the art installation has helped quite a bit, but hoping for some updates on when we might have that open conversation about what an RFP would look like and timeline for that to recoup some of the costs as well.
Thank you. Mr. President, if I could, thank you. You and I have talked about that some, and we do want to get out and have that public conversation on the dollar store. Just to be clear on it, we had, after we brought it forward for purchase and, the protection of the 107 parking spaces in our downtown that the community had really thought for decades and decades were ours. They never were, and in order to protect them, we looked at a few different ways to try to accomplish that, ultimately landed on purchasing. We have since determined that we can't go there for our own needs should this project, this renovation project start. There's a price tag to get in the door that is close to $2 million and could, go beyond that because of the need to handle asbestos that in that era of construction is significant in the building. In addition to a lot of improvements that would be needed to have the public there and a workforce there, including some ADA compliance requirements. So we will not be able to use that property for our own purposes, which is part of why we've been trying to clarify to some extent what type of value that parcel is going to have on the market, because we don't intend to own it indefinitely. We want it to be, we want the commercial down along the heart of Cabot Street to be brought back to life. It always has been our intent that, that our retail center, kind of historic retail center, will be able to benefit from a really improved building with, vibrant businesses coming in, and likely some residential above. That's really the winning formula for downtowns, and has been the winning formula for downtowns for centuries and centuries. You have people living downtown, you have people doing their business downtown, frequenting shops and restaurants, et cetera. There's something else in what you said that I wanted to address as well. The City Hall project, I'm sorry that I didn't say this earlier, because there have been people who have asked about the need for and the value of. This building was last significantly renovated in 1935 during the Great Depression with a WPA grant. This building has no HVAC system on the first and second floors, and a very substandard one on this floor. This building has not enough square footage and not enough usable space for our staff. This building has just a handful of bathrooms. This building doesn't have the kind of meeting space and conference space and the like that people need at this point. So it's a long overdue project. Our goal, as I said, is to bring it to you ready for your approval, and really kind of keeping faith with the project budget that we put together and forecasted several years ago. Which, as you know, that means some of the things we talked about building into it won't be built into it. Some of the things that were looked at before before the concern with revenues and the economy started really kicking in. So we're excited to bring it to you when it's ready in the next, in the coming weeks, and hopefully it'll make sense to you as it makes sense to us.
Thank you. Before we get to your questions, I just need to reopen the public hearing and. So, order number 60, we're just going to reopen, and I'd like to make a motion that we recess that till 8:30. All in favor? Motion carries 8-0.
Mr. President, I'm hearing a hard stop at 8:20 no matter what. Sooner,
Yes,
right?
sooner than later, that'd be good. Councilor Spang.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo everyone's thanks for the project updates, and I really appreciate that the HVAC work is happening at the fire station to ensure that the firefighters have the ability to control the temperature after those windows go in that won't be able to open. And my one question was, during the library upgrades, it looked on the slide like you're working with Director Babin to make sure that there's no closures to the public or to minimize the impacts. So I just wanted to follow up on that.
Yeah, thanks for noticing that bullet that I should have pointed out. Yes, Library Director Allison Babin is in all the meetings on this, and she has a really running conversation with the project management team and with us. But yeah, we know that our library staff and our people who rely on and use the library need to be able to do so. And I believe all of those concerns are going to be taken into account in how the work is staged and done. And I think we'll be able to do it successfully.
Thanks. That's it.
Excited about that.
Thank you.
Councilor Houseman.
Yeah, I just have two things. One is just to echo the thanks and appreciate the update and the comprehensive scope of it. My question is sidewalks along Cross Lane from Cavendish, say up to Tall Tree or so. What is the status of putting them in or not putting them in? The mayor had referenced, Ms. Chandler, like a footpath, sort of off the street. What is the status of that?
Yeah, so when I mention the word footpath, maybe that's common lane, maybe it doesn't have to be, but that's to be sorted. I will tell you that Mrs. Chandler is an engineer, and she will be out in the field engineering the sidewalk along the length of Cross Lane in the foreseeable future. That's a project we know we need to get, our goal is to do it this year. We won't do it, right out of the gates this spring, but the work will be taking place. And the goal really is to get it paved first. It's, some streets you need to do sidewalk work before a final paving. That's where you may have granite curbing and that interaction of the sidewalk and the street. That won't be the case here. So the goal is to get it paved as early in the year as we can and do the sidewalk work through the course of the year and have it done by year's end.
Okay, thank you for that. My other question, or really sort of raising a conversation point for down the road, is the chronological order of the council authorizing funds for this work at the City Hall, which clearly needs to be done. I have no disagreement with that. And then finding out the location of where City Hall might be. We've had, although, certainly appreciating kudos to the administration for upping their game on project management. But it seems to me that we could have non-binding MOUs, MOAs, that would give the council some reassurance of what it might look like for where City Hall might go and what the costs associated with that might be before the council authorizes the full project budget. So that's a conversation not for tonight, but I'd raised that with Mr. Ailes at one point a few months ago, and I want to put it on the table again here tonight. Thank you.
Thanks.
I don't see any more questions, Mr. Mayor. I thank you very much for your presentation, and Ms. Chandler for being here, and we appreciate everything that you brought forward to us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thanks.
So next up, we have comments by citizens, and this evening we have Dr. Michael Sperber with us. Mr. Sperber, thank you for being patient and joining us this evening.
All good things are worth waiting for.
Yes, they are, sir. You have up to 3 minutes. Mr. Rotundo will be our timekeeper. The floor is yours.
My name is Mike Sperber. I live 15 Hodge Street in Beverly, and I've come this evening to express gratitude and appreciation on behalf of two populations in Beverly, the homeless population and the citizenry of Beverly, because of the decision of the City Council to remove a no loitering sign attached to the gazebo in Beverly Commons. The homeless are grateful because they would be subject for loitering up to 30 months in prison and a fine of $2,500 or both. If they couldn't come up with the money, it would cost taxpayers more to support their prison stay.
Excuse me, Dr. Sperber, could we maybe have the microphone?
Are appreciative, or they will be appreciative, because they won't have what you could call a cognitive dissonance. Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry. They wouldn't have what could be called a cognitive dissonance. A gazebo is where you're supposed to gaze, and if you're told that you can't loiter, you need to gaze, you need to loiter. They're not aware of it, but something unusual, I looked this up. There's a phenomenon, it's called ecological psychotherapy. And a subcategory would be gazebo therapy. There's a new one for you. In this age, we live in an over-medicated society. 6.5 billion prescriptions are filled annually in America. There are alternative ways of dealing with sadness, anxiety, and depression than pills. and one is gazebo therapy. There it is. And what does that consist of? You sit in the spacious interior and listen to your breathing. When you breathe in, there's a high note, you listen to that. Breathe out, there's a low note. And you empty your mind of nonsense. At the same time, you look out through the open windows all around, maybe focus on the branch of a tree as it hits the trunk. The first gives you serenity when you're listening to breathing and empty your mind of nonsense. The second is tranquility, looking at nature. When they come together, it's a holistic phenomenon, and there's a release of mood enhancers, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, as well as lowering of the sympathetic nervous system, less stress involved. In the event that the city council decides to replace the sign instead of remove it, I can think of two more welcoming, hospitable signs than no loitering. Welcome, enjoy, and greetings. And I'll just end up by a half dozen words of Thoreau, actually 7 words. We can never have enough nature. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. I have one set of minutes from our regular city council meeting dated February 3rd of 2025. I'll make a motion to approve.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 8-0. Communications from His Honor the Mayor.
Order number 61, a reappointment for Amy Henderson, 137 Valley Street, to serve on the Waste Reduction Committee.
Move that to Public Services.
Order number 62, for a reappointment for Lisa Welworth, 15 Fern Street, to serve on the Waste Reduction Committee.
Refer that to Public Services.
Order number 63, a request for approval of the proposed 2025 member rate schedule for the Beverly Golf and Tennis Commission.
Refer that to Public Services. Communications from other city officers and boards.
Order number 64, from the Finance Director, Brian Ailes.
Refer to Finance and Property.
Order number 65, from Councilor St. Hilaire.
Counselor, this is St. Hilaire. This is your order. What would you like to do with it? Or comments?
Yes, so this is a refile from last year. I had submitted a request for just an update on our DEIB program from the mayor. Spoke with him tonight. It sounds like he's planning on coming before us sometime in March. So maybe if we could just hold this on the agenda until then, that would be great.
Sure, we can hold that. We'll do that. Yep.
Thank you.
Order number 66, from Councilor Spang.
Refer that to legal.
Order number 67, from the city clerk, an approval request for the warrant.
Councilors, we can vote this on the floor. So a motion to approve. Orders.
They have to recuse themselves.
Sorry, excuse me.
I make a motion to approve.
All in favor? Aye. Motion
I just had
carried.
one question,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
President. Happy to vote in favor of it,
Yep.
but I know that there was discussion in a previous order about potentially trying to consolidate polling locations. Obviously, if this is approved, seems like we just approved that wouldn't be the case. What was the reasoning?
The timing, it
Ms.
just
Kent?
didn't work out.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried to do it at the high school, but then it has to go back to the Speaker of the House. And just for timing, we don't really have the time to also then get workers and figure out a plan. So
Okay.
we're just we don't know what time that they'll keep. It could be like a month, could be 2 months, so we tried.
Okay.
A little disappointing, but it's tried.
Certainly an appreciated effort.
Yep.
And presumably that would mean this setup, the normal election setup, is likely what the general special election will look like as well in May.
Correct.
Okay.
And April, yes, for the primary.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's good to know. Thanks, Ms. Khan.
You're welcome.
All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Communications, applications, and petitions.
Order number 68 from National Grid.
This will go to Public Services to set a public hearing. So on our unfinished business from our previous meeting, we have Order 279 from President Flowers that we're going to continue to hold till future meetings. We also have Order 14, the renewal application for the Class 2 license for Alba Auto. We're going to continue to hold that for now. And then Order number 26, lodging house preliminary license, we're going to continue to hold that also. Council, since we have time before the two public hearings coming up, I'd like to go to motions and orders and go ahead and take these. So the first one, order number 40, Ms. Kent.
Order number 40, amend Chapter 117, Animals, to add Section 16, restrictions on the sale of animals to prohibit pet shops from the sale of any live reptile, bird, or mammals. Pet shops would be allowed to provide space for the display of animals available for adoption from an animal care facility or animal rescue organization, but are prohibited from receiving a fee for providing such space. Violation would be punishable by a fine of $300. And this was in the newspaper on February 3rd, and the full text has been in the city clerk's office, available to the public.
Thank you. And this is for final passage. So are there any questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Order 41.
Order number 41, a proposed amendment to Chapter 270, Vehicles and Traffic, as follows. Section 270-41, parking prohibited at all times upon the following streets or highways or parts thereof. Parking is hereby prohibited at all times on Water Street south from Lothrop Street to the ocean, Wellman Street east, 50 feet from Congress Street, Wellman west, 50 feet from Congress Street, and Wellman Street east, 30 feet from School Street. And this was in the newspaper on February 3rd.
Council, this is also for final passage too. Any questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 43, Chapter 69 of the city ordinances shall be amended to insert the following section. Article 3, indemnification of certain officers, Section 69-13, summarized as follows. An ordinance allowing for the defense and identification of elected or appointed municipal officers by reason of any act or omission excluding certain civil rights, violation, criminal charges, or ethics or conflict of interest charges if such municipal officers at the time of such act or omission was acting when the scope of their official duties of employment provided, however, that such municipal officers shall provide reasonable cooperation to the city. And this was in the newspaper on February 3rd, and the full text was in the city clerk's office.
This is also for final passage. Any questions or comments? No. Question comes on the exception of the order and of the proposal and adoption of the order. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 8-0. What's that?
I said it brings us close to our public hearing.
Yeah, it does, actually. We're right there. So, councils, we just have a couple minutes and we'll be into our public hearing. I make a motion for a 2-minute recess.
So moved.
All in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Call the council back to order. At this time, we'll open the 8:20 public hearing for order number 59 for National Grid, petition 304-73249. And I understand there's a gentleman here from National Grid to talk about it. The floor is all yours.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Kazadi, and I'm representing National Grid at 44 River Street. And so we're petitioning to install new conduit for our feeders coming out of our substation at 44 River Street.
Okay. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Spang.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, is there currently conduit here? Is this replacing stuff that's already in the street? Do you know?
No, this is brand new conduits.
New conduit, okay.
Yeah.
But the manholes are already in existence?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Does this have to do with the transmission project? Do you know?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
Actually,
And how long do you think it would take to put this in?
I'll say max probably a week.
So you may have heard there's going to be work, also other work happening on River Street this year. So I know you guys often don't coordinate, but to the best that you can coordinate so that River Street is shut either just once or not multiple times in a row. That would be great. They are going to pull the old transmission line out of River Street at some point this year.
Yep.
Those are my only questions.
Thank you. Councilor Houseman?
Yeah, actually, to follow up on that, so I spoke with Ethan Pratt, who's one of the contact persons for National Grid on the cable transmission project, and asked just that same question, and he was clear that it is unrelated to the cable project. Excuse me, that the location of the transmission line does not get down to River Street, but to your point, I think it's worth, when we meet with them on Thursday, because they don't seem to communicate really well, making sure that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing on this project. Even though they may be unrelated, they still may conflict in terms of location.
Councilor Bowen?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify on this one, there are two segments of conduit, sort of a block or so apart on River Street, or is it just one continuous?
So I believe it's two different feeders coming out of our substation.
Got it.
Yep.
And then, if I may, I'm curious what the traffic impacts might be, particularly to folks on Weber Ave, given how many different projects they've been impacted by, because it's close to that corner.
We will have our police detail there to regulate traffic, so it should be. Yeah, we're gonna have our police detail, I guess, direct the traffic, so it should be pretty. I guess it should go by pretty smooth.
I think if we can look at just what exactly that traffic management plan is going to be, keeping in mind that series of disruptions, it does look like this one may need to dig up sort of the middle of the street. So that typically isn't the kind of project that can have at least one-way traffic alternating. So just being very mindful of minimizing the traffic impacts for that corner.
Okay.
Councilor Spang?
Sorry, what's a feeder?
It's a primary cable.
So from the substation?
Yep.
Okay, and then this so it's all part of the distribution network then?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Is that?
Councilors all set? Is there anybody here from the public here to speak on this order? Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing, refer it back to Public Services. Councilors, we've got about 8 or 9 minutes before the next one. I'd like to break for committee work and come back for that 8:30. All in favor? Yes? Okay. All opposed? Okay, so public services will stay here in the chambers. Legal can go to the committee room. Finance can have the hall.
Present, and we're going to churn through a few items. So we have a series of appointments and reappointments that came to us last meeting, so we're able to act on them tonight. The first is Order 46, which is an appointment of Nicole Dove to join the Veterans Advisory Committee. I would entertain a motion to approve that appointment.
So moved.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that is approved, 3-0. Thank you. I will steal your pen. Our next appointment is a reappointment for Chuck Clark to remain on the Veterans Advisory Committee. That is Order 47. Is there a motion to approve that reappointment?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Also is approved, 3-0. So we are approving the appointment and the reappointment. We have a third Veterans Advisory Committee member, so a reappointment of Robert Laws for the Veterans Advisory Committee. Is there a motion to approve that reappointment?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That is also
Nice to see all of them still remaining to do that. They do some great things for the veterans.
Yes, that is an active community or committee these days.
Yes, it is.
And doing great work. So thank you to all of the appointees and reappointees there. We have another reappointment. Order 54 is a reappointment of Michael Murphy to serve on the Registrars of Voters. Is there a motion to approve that reappointment?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That reappointment, we recommend be approved 3-0. And that is it for reappointments. We have another item that has been on our agenda, Order 57. That's the request to discuss traffic around Turnock Street. And we are planning to have a dedicated discussion on that next Monday, the 24th at 6:30 here in City Council chambers. So all are welcome to that conversation. That'll be the main focus of our discussion that night. Yep. So I'm going to hold that item. And then we have Order 59, which came to us tonight to set a public hearing. That is the first of the two National Grid petitions. Oh, no, wait.
Don't set the public hearing on that one.
Yes, sorry, that is the public hearing that we just had, so we can act on it. The first of the two public hearings tonight. We can act. Is there a motion to approve that request? Any discussion? All right, then all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that we will approve 3-0, recommend the petition be granted. The one that we need to set a public hearing for is Order 68. That is a new petition to install underground facilities at Cabot and Hale. I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing for March 3rd at 7:30 p.m.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And we will speak to the other public hearing.
So what I'm going to do is on that public hearing, because I think that'll be the only thing, is once that's done, when we get in, I'm going to go ahead and
take it on the
recommend and
floor.
vote it on the floor.
Yeah, that
So
sounds
done
like a
that,
good
so you don't
plan.
have to
So
come back to committee, okay?
excellent. That'll be Order 60. And we'll take that up
Yeah.
on the floor.
Yeah, we'll take that on the floor.
And then the final piece on our agenda is the Beverly Golf and Tennis Commission member rate schedule. that we are able to act on. Is there a motion to approve
So moved.
that rate schedule with no changes?
No changes.
Any discussion? I noticed there were a couple of rates that are slightly different between the website and this publication, so.
I think once
I'll
they
just-
do that, everything will align properly.
Yes, so we'll check on that. Rates have not changed. I know folks were here talking about infrastructure upgrades, so the fact that they're able to keep that in balance is good for members. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. That is also approved, 3-2-0. And that is all we have on our agenda. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn the Public Services Committee.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, then we are done at 8:31. Record.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for your cooperation as far as the committees go. At this time, I'd like to open up the second public hearing, order number 060, National Grid petition, number 309-26878, and National Grid is here. Any comments?
Hi, my name is Michael Kazadi. I'm representing National Grid at 44 River Street. And yeah, for this job, we're also just petitioning to install new conduits for our feeders leaving our substation.
Any questions from the council?
Not really a question, but just the same request to coordinate, because it's, again, this one is also in the middle of River Street, so just to coordinate the disruptions.
Super. Councilor Houseman.
Yeah, I suppose my comments are redundant after Councilor Spang. Yeah, it's just a question of it's not part of the transmission project, but coordination is not the strong suit of National Grid. So we'll keep on top of it with the cable transmission folks, at least Councilor Spang and myself when we meet. Thank you.
Good, thank you all. Any members from the public have anything on this order? Seeing or hearing none, I will close this public hearing. Order number 060. Councilors, I would like to make a motion to vote this on the floor. All in favor? Aye. So with that, I'd like to, for order number 60, are there any, do you need to read that one?
Get a motion, no.
All right, I'd like a motion to approve order 60. All in favor? Aye. Motion approves 8-0. Super. Ms. Kent, subcommittees.
Order number 64, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom referred the matter regarding a request to use FY25 funds to pay for prior year invoices, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this request.
Are there questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 49, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding a reappointment for Jonathan Salt to serve on the Parking and Traffic Commission, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Any questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? 8-0.
Order number 50, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding a reappointment for Sergeant Dana Nicholson to serve on the Parking and Traffic Commission, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Any questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 51, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding a reappointment for Captain Jacob Kraling to serve on the Parking and Traffic Commission, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 52, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding a reappointment for Hensley Elsie to serve as a constable in the city of Beverly, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 46, the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding an appointment for Nicole Dove to serve on the Veterans Advisory Committee, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this appointment.
Questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 47, the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding a reappointment for Chuck Clark to serve on the Veterans Advisory Committee, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 48, Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding a reappointment from Robert Laws to serve on the Veterans Advisory Committee, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 54, the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding a reappointment for Michael Murphy, 43 Fairview Ave, to serve on the Register of Voters, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 59, the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding a National Grid petition 304-73249 to install new duct bank on River Street, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. To set recommend the petition be granted.
Questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 63, the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding a request for approval of the proposed 2025 member rate schedule for the Beverly Golf and Tennis Commission, had considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this request.
Questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 68, the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding a petition 310-53718 to install underground facilities on Cabot and Hale Street, have considered said matter and set a public hearing for March 3rd at 7:30 p.m.
Questions or comments? The proposal to set this public hearing for March 3rd. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
That's all I got.
Any announcements or information from councilors? Councilor Bowen.
Thank you. For folks who were not in the room during the Public Services Committee meeting, we are going to have a committee meeting on Monday, this coming Monday, February 24th at 6:30 here in Council Chambers to talk about the order on our agenda around traffic at Turnock Street. So residents who have experienced interesting traffic situations there are welcome to attend, and we'll invite public to speak, and we'll discuss at that meeting.
Thank you. Any others? Well, on that note, motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Have a good evening, everybody.